All right. So based on everything on my computer screen, it should say that this is recording. So good evening, Saints. Hope you are all doing well and adjusting to this new normal of moving everything online. My apologies about the delay in posting this. I was actually traveling myself for spring break. And so when the decision was made, I didn't have all of the material I needed to really be ready to hit play on Monday with the content and didn't want to piecemeal it out and wanted to make sure that it was all done, all ready to go. And I had all my ducks in a row as far as content I'm going to share with you today. So I promise we'll be on a better track going um, from here on out. Let me, sorry, I'm trying to, all right, there we go. I just wanted to have a timer so I know how long I've been on here. I'm going to try to keep this maybe even under the 50 minutes that we have technically scheduled for class because I know most of you will be at home. Most of you will be doing other things and don't want to bore you to death too much. Um, anyway, also, I've had some people reach out. Email is great. More than happy to answer quick yes, nos with email. I also am more than happy to set up a time through Zoom, which is the application I'm using to record this. In the Google, you can download it, it's free. And then if you want to set up a time, we can agree on a time. I can send you a meeting link. And basically, all you do is you click on it. You've downloaded the app on your phone or on your laptop, and you literally double click on the link. It pops everything up and will be automatically connected. The reason I'm opting to do this versus trying to find some time to meet in person is one, just convenience because we have several students who are going home out of state and making sure everyone has equal access to me as much as possible. And also just the flexibility with Zoom. We can meet basically anytime, anywhere. Uh, all right, I just have some notes here, so making sure I'm covering everything. All right, first off, speaking of having everything done and up ready for you to see, let's go here. Pardon the mess. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's see. So as of this recording at 7:20 on Tuesday night, everything is up, ready to go in the Moodle for this week. So if you scroll down, I also have updated the weeks to say what chapters we will be covering. So week 9, chapter 9. So by the end of the week, you should have finished that chapter or have already finished it by now. So you can understand what we're talking about through the lecture. The final project, part 1, is going to be due by midnight, Wednesday, 3:18. Chapter 9, there's a little small article, when is it too much? Short article from Business Insider, couple questions due Sunday, 3:23 at 11 p.m. Attendance activity for 3:16 and 3:18. It sort of builds off itself. It's a fairly easy task. Please complete it attached and will be due by Friday by 11 p.m. Attendance activity for I just realized I posted that twice, so let's just apologize about that. I must have had a error in my operations on my end. So we'll just go here, delete that. All right. And then there will be an attendance activity. It'll be available starting at 4:00 p.m. on March 19th for Friday's class. And it'll be due Friday by 11 p.m. Again, super short activity that will build off some of the content that we talk about through this week. Just again, to review, just for me directly, because attendance is part of the class, I will be assigning these attendance activities that will be short and should be fairly easy to do. That will count for your attendance. There will be some times during the week, during the chapters, if there is more, then I'll assign like chapter questions like we've done previously, but probably going to focus mostly just on those attendance activity questions that will be short, sweet, and then, like I said, build off the content we talked about in class. If you have any questions about this or have any concerns about it, please email me. Also, just call out as well. I'll try to remember to put the stuff in on the Moodle, front page of the Moodle, but if you have any questions on when something is due, right here. Okay, you should know that by now because most of you are probably pretty familiar with Moodle, but if not, there you go. I've also pretty sure I set up everything to where if you miss the deadline, and I think I gave each like an hour or half, or excuse me, not an hour, like half an hour max before cutoff, still submit it. So that way I can still, because I know what happens, you realize that like 11:45 takes time, etc. But still submit it, please, because I want to not have that impact your grade as much as possible and don't want you to miss out on any content. If you've missed the cutoff date, it won't allow you to submit. And in that case, reach out to me if there's a reason, that would be valid, quote unquote, excused. By all means, you and I can talk about, cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so everything's on there. You'll see the same stuff starting to be populated and slowly starting to appear through the rest of the weeks. As far as the quiz on 4/8, not sure how I'm going to handle that yet. So just TBD, I'm leaving it on there, as well as the final. I'm not sure on how I'm handling that. So again, cross that bridge when we come to it. I think that is about it from there. So let us go back to, let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, now as far as the lecture, I'm going to try to, again, keep this short and condensed, walk through the PowerPoints. I have my PowerPoint slides similar to in class. I will try to walk through it slowly, and again, trying to not have this run any longer than probably 30 or 40 minutes, just for everyone's sanity. All right, so I think that's all for that. Now, obviously, like we talked about, or I've talked about, that this chapter is chapter 9, talking about sponsorship. And so obviously it covers, we're getting into some more of those juicy pieces about sports marketing, which I think will be more interesting, hopefully. And so wanted to call out a few of those in our little sort of marketing minute for this class period, and that being the 5 examples of, put that over here, 5 examples of the most bizarre sports sponsorships. I thought you guys would appreciate this. College bowls, obviously, notorious for, now I think, I'm not sure if that 42 number is still accurate, but more sponsorship, every bowl has a name to it. The Tax Slayer Bowl, San Diego Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Like I said, by the time you finish saying it, the name of the bowl, the entire game is over. Arenas, stadiums, the KFC Yum Center, interesting name, the Jobbing.com Arena, Sleep Train Arena, uh, GEO Group Stadium. These are some good ones as well. NASCAR races, Goodies Health, a headache relief, Shot 500. Crown Royal presents Your Hero's Name here at the Brickyard. SpongeBob SquarePants 400. Some soccer jersey sponsorships, Atletico Madrid and Columbia Pictures, Scarborough and Black Death Vodka, AC Milan and Poo Jeans. And this one I thought it was fairly interesting, but also I think a fairly good example of how unique you can get with sponsorship and still get money in the door. Werner, the official ladder of the NCAA. Partnership between the letter company and NCAA tournament gets its own category of ridiculousness. Yeah, how many of you have been wondering about who the official ladder of the NCAA is? But when you look at these photos from a marketing perspective, how great exposure is this? It actually, I think, is probably a pretty smart sponsorship for Werner and the NCAA, because every time in March Madness, obviously, except this year, you have these photos and their names splashed over it without even really it being mentioned, besides just the image and that connection. So anyway, interesting little few tidbits. So there we go. All right, so now we're going to move to the lecture and we'll see how this goes. So bear with me, please. Let's go. Where is the? All right. So chapter 9, sponsorship, corporate partnerships, and the role of activation. Basically, the big thing, the first chapter, sort of that gray little section, I wanted to call out specific attention to because it does a good job of talking about Gatorade and its sponsorship with video games such as NBA 2K, NBA Live, to where it became very integrated in that game, to the point at which, Gatorade, the last paragraph, Gatorade spent less than 1 million on the effort but got a sizable return on investment, according to brand research. Majority, 82% of gamers who recalled Gatorade in the game were able to attribute to a specific location in which the brand appeared. Nearly 3/4, 70%, of those who recalled its appearance in the game said they liked it as part of the experience. As we talked about, as we will continue to talk about through this chapter, you want to make sure that it's memorable and there is an association. Not having that association makes it sort of worthless and money down the drain for these sponsors. So you don't, you want to keep that in mind, essentially. So anyway, so some of the objectives that we're going to talk about in this. To illustrate the relationship between the sport property and the corporate partner, to demonstrate the importance of fit and the use of exclusivity between the sponsor and the property, to develop a comprehension of the motivations and rationale for the use of sponsorship by corporations and sport entities, and to convey the importance of activation to engage the target market while simultaneously bringing the brand to life. Sponsorship defined. The acquisition of rights to affiliate or directly associate with a product or event for the purpose of deriving benefits related to that affiliation or association. Sponsors use their relationships to achieve promotional objectives or to facilitate support of their broader marketing objectives. The one thing to sort of call out in this is that, as it talks about in the book, is that promotional licensing is sort of an umbrella term. And so sponsorship, corporate partnership has become more of the accepted term throughout the sports marketing world when it comes to a lot of this type of stuff. So just keep that in mind. Sponsorship. The rights derived from the sponsor relationship may include the following: retail opportunities, purchase of media time, entitlement, contests or sweepstakes, endorsements, logo placement on uniforms or apparel, hospitality, and web access. And so they're all pretty well laid out in the book, and we've talked about a lot of them, specifically the right to use logo, name, or trademark, the right to an exclusive association with a product or service category, entitlement to an event or venue or facility. Again, like I said, it's laid out in page 231, bullet points. Call your attention to those. This is what I found very interesting. This is a good table, and it talks about the amount of money spent on sport and special event sponsorship, as well as the number of sponsorships and how they've grown. So when you think about sponsorship spending, where the categories are, something to pay particular attention to, and I will encourage you to pay particular attention to, is, let's see if I can spotlight this. Sorry, I'm trying to turn something on here and I'm not sure. All right. You know what? It's not going to allow me to do this right now, so sorry about that. Are these categories right here? Sports, entertainments, causes, arts, festival and fairs, and associations or membership organizations. Those are all the people out there looking for those sponsorship dollars, and how they're and where, yeah, those are all the people out there looking for the sponsorship dollars. You can see where a majority of them lay with sport, where you've had in this this graphic 5.1% increase between 2011 and 2012, a 6% increase from 2012 projected. Entertainment saw a 4.3% increase and projected to be a 5.1% increase. Causes, I think you see the sort of a large jump, 4.8, and then festivals, fairs, and annual events, and associations and membership organizations. I think both are seeing, I would extrapolate if you probably drug those out over, drug this graph out over the next 10, from 2011 to now, you probably would see festivals and fairs and associated membership organizations having grown in usage. So, all right. So, next slide. All right. Sponsorship's place within the marketing mix. Sponsorship activities are integrated within the sport event organization. Sponsorship activities are composed of a variety of marketing and promotional components. We will talk about that here in a second. It looks like this. Sorry, there we go. All right. All right. All right. The marketer's function is to manipulate these variables to meet the target market's needs in a continually changing environment. Customer at the center, product, place, price, promotion, public relations, and environment when it comes to the marketing situation, as well as where sponsorship lives. Sponsorship place within the marketing mix, just continuing adding on to that. Advertising, personal selling, publicity, positioning, and sales promotion. Elements of the promotions or communications mix are traditionally considered to be all of these. Combinations of some or all these elements are inherent in sponsorship agreements. You don't just focus on one, but there are several usually within. One great example of a majority of these elements is a hospitality event. Hospitality not only positions the sponsor as a person or entity within influence, but also acts as a form of personal selling, because the sponsors can conduct activities through face-to-face contact. It also functions as promotions because it's promoting a company to a current or potential clients. I think that you think of a lot of the professional sporting arenas. You see this example that was from the book, page 233, is Sprite, through its parent company Coca-Cola, pays an annual fee to the NBA in exchange for affiliation or association with the NBA, and receives certain benefits, include category exclusivity in the soft drink category, use of NBA registered trademarks, preferred ticket packages and hospitality opportunities during NBA All-Star Week, the right to conduct in-store and web-based promotions, and the right to conduct national promotional activities and contests associated with NBA All-Star Week, such as NBA All-Star balloting. This is just one example, but also if you go to just more simpler run-of-the-mill, if you look at the Tacoma Rainiers, typically the VIP seating area is X company. That company then has obviously the association with the sport firm, but then that company has access to that VIP section and that seating and special other options that they can use to help improve their business, and seen as an investment, so they get a return on investment with that. Important idea to understand. But there's one thing that you get out of this and talking about sponsorship, which most people, I would guess, if you're watching this, get and understand, is activation. And activation is defined as the marketing activities that a company conducts to promote its sponsorship. Activation is commonly referred to as leveraging or bringing a brand to life by creating a variety of means to interact with a target market. And money spent on activation is over and above the right fees paid to the sponsored property. We're going to talk more about how to properly activate and some more details on that later, but make sure activation, circle that, understand that as a vocabulary word. Reasons for growth in sports sponsorship. Some interesting history, I think, that's worth sort of just understanding, not necessarily maybe for the test, but just how the market has changed in like the last 30 years, just in general with sports marketing. Tobacco and alcohol, more specifically tobacco, back, and alcohol back in the 60s and 70s, spending lots of money in sports. That got tailored back to where in 1997, tobacco was about spending 195 million. Then after 2010, they can't spend anything. So that has sort of shifted who is in the sports marketing sphere. The average person sees more than 3,500 selling messages per day, or about 250 ads every 90 minutes. So again, decreased effectiveness in advertising in print and television. That's been picked up though, because you're seeing it in social media, you're seeing it on the web, you're seeing it in email. Increased spending from 2011 to 2012 increased 7.2%. Internet spending, from 2011 to 2012 increased 7.2%. Example of that. Magazines decreased by 1.3. And I think the book does a good job, and I thought this was an interesting little segment. Why spend so much on an ad during the Super Bowl? 46% of households watch the game. 111 million viewers. 58% of consumers think Super Bowl advertising is more memorable than average. Which, how many of you, hell, we even talked about it in class. what was the most memorable Super Bowl at? We don't talk about that after, first and second round games of the NFL playoffs. It's not something that you talk about usually. It's, oh, what was the coolest Super Bowl at? It's become part of our culture. More history in that. 1984 Olympic Games, a landmark major sea change to where the Olympic Organizing Committee, I believe under Peter Ueberroth, came in and revamped how they did this corporate sponsorships. They reduced the sponsorships to 30 to reduce clutter, giving them, obviously increasing the value of those sponsorships. And in the end, being one of the first, I think the first Olympic Games to actually make money for the host organizing committee. Increased number of television channels devoted to sport programming. This is becoming interesting as now some of those channels are disappearing. You look at the regional sports networks for athletic, Big Ten Network, SEC Network, and they're moving online. Interesting to see how those changes, but also, sort of links to the last point, technological developments leading and portability of sport through mobile devices. Amazon is becoming one of the sort of titans of the industry, and people are really watching to see what they do as far as streaming content, because they're willing to, they have the money to pay whatever is asked of them. And it's really going to be interesting to see in the next round of media rights deals where they or what they do. So something to keep in mind. All right. Emergence of new sport offerings and the importance of importing programming from other countries. Popularity of sport-themed video gaming and fantasy sports, and the globalization of sport. Again, some more graphs sort of inform you what is happening. You can see sort of in 2009, right after the recession, probably going to be interesting to see what happens after the virus is run its course, but you had massive declines in advertising, sales, promotion, sponsorship. As the years have progressed, you see where the direction of the chart has flipped, and where you're seeing sponsorship and advertising almost neck and neck in 2012 projected. Sponsorship, though, in 2011, about a full 1.5 percentage points higher. So again, sort of the natural evolution of how things are going. They're all are, and how the fact they're all connected and they all sort of build off each other. Global sponsorship spending by region. Europe, you can see there, projected in 2013, 14.5 billion, the most. Obviously, Premier League, big driver of that. Asia and the Pacific, 12.6 billion. Central and South America, 4 billion. And all other countries, only 2.3 billion. So it's not just in the United States. There is lots of money out there in the world, all over the place, connected to sports. So what does sports sponsorship offer? Well, there's a shift in sponsorship objectives from traditional philanthropy, when we're talking about sort of the 60s and 70s, or entertaining the interests of the sponsors, corporate executives, to demonstrating significant business-related ROI or ROO. ROI, return on investment, note. ROO, return on objective. And ROE, return on experience. Those are all buzz terms in accountability measurements. So remember that again: ROI, ROO, ROE, ROI, return on investment, ROO, return on objective, and ROE, return on experience. Since the 1980s, again, 1984 Olympics, sort of that watershed moment, sport sponsorship practice became involving serious research, large investments, and strategic initiatives related to corporate objectives and targets. By marketing through sport or entertainment, a company attempts to reach its target consumers through their lifestyles, or lifestyled marketing is a strategy for seizing the concept of a market according to its most meaningful recurring patterns of attitudes and activities, and then tailoring products and their strategies to fit these patterns. And the rationale behind all this is that leisure is a persuasive environment through which to relate to a sales message. By establishing a link to a company, establishing a link with an event or activity, a company shares the credibility and intentions of the event itself while delivering a message to a consumer who is apt to be more relaxed and potentially more receptive. You're not essentially meaning, when you look at to translate that, you're not going to a game to see an ad. You're not expecting to see an ad, but you see it a lot passively as you're at the game. So that will tend to stick with you. That will tend to connect more than just a ad. You're watching a Sounders game. You will see more ads probably than you will at home, but you won't. There'll be a passive connection. And also, and we'll talk more about this later when it comes to hospitality, businesses love it because when you're at the game, people are more relaxed, more enjoying the game experience, and are more apt to have some of those conversations that lead to those business deals. An example of all this from the book, Audi signed a sponsorship agreement with equestrian events, ski races, and sailing after research of their demographics. Again, the importance of database marketing indicated that participants in and followers of those events and activities were typical Audi buyers. Obviously identifying, zip code, income. They were able to put those dots together, and they were able to understand that they could put their money there and be much more productive with it than just sort of throwing Jello at a wall and sponsoring anything and everything they saw. All right. Corporate objectives. At this point, I've been talking at you for about 35 minutes. I'm going to cut it here because I think that will still give us plenty of content to talk about between the next 2 days. All right. Hold on, something happened. Oh. All right. All right. Sorry about that. I'm back. Don't know if you lost me or not, but let's see. Anyway, there we go. Apologize. I'll get some of these technical difficulties worked out, but I'm gonna end it there. I think, like you had, we've been going for 36 minutes, almost 37. I hope this has made sense. If it hasn't, email me. If you have critiques about how I'm presenting this, let me know. Bottom line, I want to make this interesting and entertaining, and I'm going to do my best to do that. And yeah, I hope you're all well. Stay healthy, behave yourselves, and wash your hands. We see you guys tomorrow.